This is the 90-Degree Show brought to you by the Marching Podcast. And now here's your host, the Phantom Podcaster himself, Joe Beard.
Welcome to the 90-Degree Show. I'm your host, Joe Beard, and happy to be of service for you. We appreciate all those listening through iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, our website, our blog, or wherever you are on the interwebs. At the end of the broadcast, if you decide you like the show, then we appreciate a donation to the network if you feel so in your heart, of course. Just simply go to themarchingpodcast.com and click on the donate button to help improve the show and help build our scholarship fund. This podcast is brought to you by Block Band Music and Publishing, The Edge One Productions, and Double Time Entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. We welcome you to the 2016 season of the 90-Degree Show, and we are happy to talk another year about our beloved schools. Super excited to be broadcasting in our own studio and ready to introduce the new format to the show. We're not taking calls in accordance with Blog Talk Radio anymore. However, if you would like to be on the show to talk about the battle you attended, you are welcome to do so and be a part of our recording. In this podcast, we talk about the granddaddy of classics, the Bayou Classic, between Southern University and Grambling State University. And we will recap Thanksgiving when we tell the listeners what we did last week. We also want to take the time to acknowledge the passing of Dr. Deborah Saunders White of North Carolina Central. She was the first permanent female chancellor of the university, took that position in 2013. The chancellor unfortunately passed last week. We also want to talk about women in leadership roles at HBCUs. Now, what sparked this conversation is our man Jared Carter, who you can also check Chopping It Up with Jared Carter Sr., who was our first interview on the network, is the owner and founder of the HBCU Digest media source. He wrote a very good article on HBCUdigest.com talking about the passing of Dr. White and what women are still in leadership positions at HBCUs. Are we still asking ourselves about women as leaders in 2016? This podcast will be part one, where we will be joined by Bridget Bell to talk about the Bayou Classic and to give her comments on the topic. And in the second part, we will be joined by Kelly Charles of Grambling State University to let us know how she felt about Grambling's performance and how she felt about the passing and leadership roles of females at HBCUs. So stay locked to the network as we will release part two very shortly behind this podcast. You can email the show at marchingpodcast@gmail.com, tweet us at marchingpodcast, or follow our blog, blog4.themarchingpodcast.com. You're now here with the Marching Podcast and have another week, an outstanding week to talk about bands, the Bayou Classic week post-Thanksgiving. And in this podcast, we have a great guest again, Miss Bridget Bell.
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks again for being on the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, always good to have you on. So I want to always ask the folks what they did this week. So we had a big, eventful holiday week last week. So I asked you first, what did you do this week? Or last week?
This is my favorite holiday of the year. I am a fan of Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. To me, it is the best holiday. Nothing to give but love, family, and friends. And so being originally from Alabama, I love to cook.
Okay.
And I feel like this is the holiday I don't want anyone to be by themselves. So beyond my family, I invite friends, church members, anybody who want to come and get a good old plate. I have it laid out.
Wow.
And so this week was my cooking I do what's called a 5-day cook down. So it takes me about 5 days to get everything where I want it to be,
Okay.
everything good and ready. And I have probably close to 30 people in my home. But when I say it's a wonderful time, this is how I express my love. I express my love through cooking. We had some great, good games, some good fellowship. We gave God thanks for all the things He's done for us, even just being together. So in a nutshell, that was my week. But when I say thoroughly enjoyed it, I enjoy being with family, friends, watching football and hanging out and laughing. That's what the holidays should be about. But originally, we're Alabama family, but our roots run deep in Alabama. Just been in Baltimore, Maryland a long time.
Okay, so I have to then ask you. You brought up football. Who
Hmm.
then is your professional football team then?
Oh, that's so funny. Let me tell you. First of all, coming from Alabama, there are no pro teams in Alabama.
Right.
So we're a college family. My family. I grew up on college football.
Okay.
However, Maryland eventually got a team. Actually, one of the reasons we came to Maryland, my dad wanted to play for the Baltimore Colts. And so if I have to pick a team to kind of support pro team, I'll be a Ravens fan.
Okay.
Not really liking the direction of the team right now, but if I have to support a pro team, it's going to be the Ravens. But let me tell you, I am an Alabama Roll Tide fan.
Okay.
Die hard. That's my team right there. I put them over everybody.
So that's cool. That's the good old Nick Saban. Nick
Yeah,
Saban.
absolutely.
And they seem to always be having the dominant folks.
Powerhouse.
They definitely look good this year to go. Well, I'm
Hmm.
sure they're gonna go to the playoff at this
Let's
point
go
now.
all the way.
Right. So that's good. So that's good to know. I had to double check since you brought up football. So
Hmm.
since the teams, I guess none of your teams really were playing on the Thanksgiving holiday.
Not really.
Um.
We watched a little bit of the games that's happening. I play fantasy football.
Okay. Okay.
So, we watch a couple of the games. I'm trying not to get my little heart and feelings too far in it because when I start caring about fantasy football, my teams don't do as well as I want to. So I've been trying to step back. But I have three pretty good fantasy football teams happening right now.
Are they all in a season league? Or are you doing the daily thing with like
What do you mean?
FanDuel or DraftKings?
Oh no, I'm in three different leagues.
Oh,
So
okay, season
one league
joints.
one league is an all girl league.
Oh,
One league
okay.
is a family league, and one of the brothers at Kappa Kappa Psi started a league, and it's just people kind of from everywhere. So I'm in three different leagues.
Okay, that's cool. And you brought up Kappa Kappa Psi. Shout out to them. Their birthday
Shut,
was last week
yeah,
or
yesterday
or
actually. Shout
yesterday.
out to my
Yeah,
brothers at Kappa Kappa Psi. Happy Founders Day, brothers.
yeah. Shout out. Of course, if you a band head, either you were in Kappa Kappa Psi or you know somebody from Kappa Kappa Psi. So
That's
it's
right.
it's pretty much the same. Me myself for Thanksgiving, we went to Santa Maria in
Okay.
California, which is like 4 hours north of me, about an hour north of Santa Barbara. So it's on the water and it's on the coast. It's really nice. It was cold up there too. And when I say cold, it's like,
Wow.
45 degrees. That's cold.
Oh,
You know what
that's
I'm saying?
cool to you all in California,
That's cold,
huh?
man. So I did that and that was fun. And then her cousins always have these movie apps. Or like
Okay.
4 years ago, I saw them. They always watching movies. Well, they had this app on his Fire Stick called Kodi, Kodi,
Okay.
and it was straight up bootleg movies
Wow.
on an app. And I was like, wow, this is the first time I've seen bootleg movies on an app where it's not like
Wow.
a DVD you got from Roscoe's or something like that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So it was a trip. I was like, wow. So I saw Doctor Strange and I saw the Troll movie
Hmm.
and I started the little Fantasy Beast joint because Christy was talking about it last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, or last week. She was telling me Fantastic Beast or Fantasy Beast or something like that.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts of Harry Potter spinoff.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Hmm.
was like, oh, okay, let me check some of this out. And then I went to sleep on it because it was like late at night. But I was like, man, and I even text Christy. I was like, Christy, I found your Happy Beast or well, Fantastic Beast, whatever it is.
Okay.
I saw your Facebook post. You had all the food that you had. It made me hungry. So
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah,
tight.
I like to throw in anything I can think of. I try to Put it out for Thanksgiving. I like to throw down on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I saw that unfortunately North Carolina Central's admin passed away.
Yeah.
Deborah Saunders White.
Right.
I think I saw T.D. Hollins, the director there, had a nice little tribute to her on his
Okay.
page. So that was cool, and I was like, "Oh, that's unfortunate." I didn't know her personally, but any faucet at any HBCU school is very important. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? Happened this
Yeah,
weekend.
I followed that story a little bit. I guess she was the chancellor there at North Carolina Central, been battling cancer. I think
Oh,
kidney cancer for some time is what the article said. And, my condolences and prayers are with the North Carolina Central family. As I can't imagine you losing a person like that. And it seemed like she was a really personable
hmm
kind of chancellor. The friends that I have that are from North Carolina Central, many of them had pictures with her and great stories. So it's really sad whenever we lose someone in leadership, lose anyone in general, but losing someone in leadership is really sad, especially amidst a time when females in leadership are, I hate to say under attack, but there's so many challenges with female chancellors and presidents across our HBCUs, and to lose yet another one is really kind of a sad and trying time for the world of HBCUs. So my prayers are definitely with the North Carolina Central family.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I saw that, and then that made me look later. I think you were telling me about this story has been out there for a while, but it
Hmm.
looks like they repost, I guess, in light of this, but talking about the lack of leadership at the presidential level at HBCUs. I saw this article on HBCU Digest. Shout out to Jared Carter Sr. He
Hmm.
was the first person I interviewed here on the Chopping It Up series.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually listened to him, found him on Twitter. Like after I
Hmm.
joined Twitter and got on there, I saw he was doing his show on Blog Talk Radio, and that's what got me going doing this. I always followed his blog, really like what he's doing. And he's from around Bowie State, around that area, not too far from
Okay.
you.
Not far from me. Hmm.
Yeah, and so yeah, he actually had the article, "Where have all the black women HBCU presidents gone, and
Hmm.
why aren't male presidents getting the same treatment?" So what?
Mm.
Like dang. So that made me look and start reading, and he actually starts off the letter talking about the passing of Deborah Saunders White. Later on, rose into other presidents that have been fired. Looks like in the last 6, 7 years.
Right. He's kind of gave a rundown of the many presidents from Alabama State, Savannah State, Jackson State, I think Florida A&M. So many have had female leadership that's kind of, have been moving around a little bit, kind of lost their posts or whatever. So the article is kind of interesting. It seems like some of the information, I'm not sure how totally credible everything is there, because I don't know the backgrounds of all the schools. But, it kind of lists a few of the schools: Florida Memorial, Alabama State, Elizabeth City, FAMU, Wilberforce, Allen University, just to name a few of the universities that have had female leadership that, for one reason or another, the school decided to not renew contracts or to move them from their posts, which to me in this day and age is still kind of says a lot about women leadership. Even in the midst of the things that's happened in our own country, as we're picking a president of the United States, I'm still amazed at how many people are still not comfortable with female leadership. One, in our universities, in our band programs, in our society, still a challenge to get female leadership. And are they held to a higher standard than some in males that are in the same position? So if incident happened here and it's a male leader, and incident somewhere else happened, it's the same incident, it's a female leader, will the female leader get ousted faster than the male? That's kind of what the article is kind of posing, and kind of the question for everyone to kind of ponder and think about.
HBCUdigest.com. Check out the article about where have all the HBCU women presidents gone. I want to let you talk about Morgan State just to clear up, because like you said, we going through to see the credibility, but he
Hmm.
brings up FAM, and of course what happened at FAM.
Right.
He talked about Dillard. He talked about Dillard some kids were actually pepper sprayed on campus. And he said, while a white supremacist political candidate found safe space in the lecture hall. You know what I mean? I was just like, wow. But then he said no one is calling for the firing of Walter Kimbrough. And Walter Kimbrough is pretty famous. But yeah, the whole article is just going down a list of, I guess, facts or points to actually say that, hey, you guys are treating females different. And like you said, even our presidential election, Hillary did win the popular vote, but she lost the electoral college in a lot of those places.
Right.
Where maybe it's a little bit slower, if you will. I guess that's the only term I can use to maybe accept so much more of a change.
Sure.
Yeah.
Need to write music and drill? Get it on the field. Outfit your band. Keep your administrator happy and still have a life. Encountering drama in the process, ain't nobody got time for that. Let Block Band Music assist you with musical arrangements and drills to fit your band, and also the equipment, gear, and accessories to keep the visuals, music, and marching on point. Contact blockbandmusic@gmail.com and see how this worldwide minority-owned business can uplift your band.
Hello, this is Dr. Carl Dares from Vanderbilt University, a proud Bulldog from Alabama A&M, and you are listening to the Marching Podcast Radio Network.
Because to me, it's an interesting topic because it's very similar to being black to me. You know, being black, whereas as soon as we talk about people being fired, the guy at Texas, I guess this happened last week, I guess. The guy at Texas, Charlie Strong, was the first black coach at University of Texas. And he was fired. And the numbers are pretty much him being the worst in football history. Talking about how much he's lost, who he's lost to, yada, 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 yada. I don't know if he had the full support. They were quick to get him out of there. You know what I mean? They only gave him so much of a leash. Similarities with being a woman. And then the same thing is just being black. I mean, just far as especially what our current president has been through over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a entire show within itself.
Yeah, it is. It is. I did want you to let him clear up something so people can holler at us about the actual information. He did bring up Morgan State. And David Wilson said that misspent foundation funds. So could you clear that up for the podcast?
Actually, and I was reading that. Okay, so within this first 1 or 2 years of Dr. Wilson being in office, he came through auditing the books, checking and going through something. So under the last administration, for one, they found a lot of misappropriation or things that were happening that weren't supposed to be. So he started cleaning house. Board of trustees, the people who kind of run the university, the board, they didn't really care for it because when you start shaking up stuff and kind of exposing things often, it kind of pulls the cover off some other people. And so they tried to boot him out of there. But when I say the community and the students and everyone rallied around him, really rallied around him, they weren't going to renew his contract, but he had the support of the students, quite a few of the faculty members, and they actually did renew his contract. So he's been with us for some time now. Not only that, he was fighting some other lawsuits and some other things in the state about funding for the university, programs that you can have there. The way the state of Maryland is set up now, for certain programs, only one school in the state can have the program so that students, it kind of provides equity in student population. So for example, one of the programs is engineering. So if Morgan has civil and electrical engineering, they're the only school in the state that's supposed to have it, which means any student in the state that's applying has to apply to Morgan State if they want to major in those two things. But if Morgan has those two programs, then that means maybe University of Maryland have mechanical and something else. electrical, whatever.
Right.
And so students would
Chemical.
whether you are black, white, Asian, you would have to apply to the school based upon the program, not based upon the fact that it's a predominantly white institution or an HBCU. So that wasn't quite happening, and there was some duplication of programs, which Morgan kind of, it's like, no, that's not right, what's kind of happening, and it kind of dispersed it. I think there were some things with the funding there. So that part of the article is a little dicey. It didn't quite give all the information there, but Dr. Wilson has been very honorable about funding, making sure that money has been going to the correct places. As I said in previous weeks, he's a very supportive president. But when I say he came through cleaning house, he came through cleaning house when he came in to the university. They didn't fire him. He's never been fired, but they weren't going to renew his contract, but he had some good support to keep him in there.
That's good, and I'm glad you got a chance to clear that up because, like you said,
Yeah.
it was. I mean, he used it to hype his point about the females, and so there was some
Right.
speculation or whatever we had just wanted to clear up. On then to the great matchup of the Bayou Classic between Grambling State University and Southern University. Really, really cool. And like Rashad said, this is one of the reasons how he got into band in the first place. It's very, very special. It used to be on national broadcast, but now it's on NBC Sports.
Okay.
So I think more people have NBC Sports now than what I know we talked about that last year as far as them actually moving it from the usual national broadcast to NBC Sports. But I do want to talk to you about at least about halftime. I got to check out halftime and the Battle of the Bands and just wanted to see like how you felt about what you saw. So I asked you about halftime first.
I thought it was a pretty nice presentation from both bands, from Southern and from Grambling. I have to say, give a shout out to the media team I know definitely from Southern, I think Grambling also. It's great to be able to go find some good footage because the broadcasts don't show you everything.
Right.
But the broadcast that we found on YouTube and other places, especially Southern University's media team, doing a fantastic job. A lot of HBCU bands are kind of going to media teams, putting together nice productions. So really nice production, was able to see and hear it from a different perspective. But overall, I thought the bands drilled pretty well. Nice little squad drills, nice and clean, kind of crowd getter drills that the people understood. I thought that was nice. Playing in that dome has to be challenging. That echo can be a butt kicker.
Right.
Let's be honest. I don't know if you've ever been inside the Superdome. I've had a chance to attend the Bayou Classic, but that sound, when I say bounces all over the place, boy, it's challenging to really hear in there. So even considering the acoustic differences in the Superdome, I think they did a nice job.
Who did you think had the better halftime show?
When I say it was about even to me, well, no, I'm gonna go back. Let me take that back. It was about even, but if I had to give it to somebody, I'm gonna give it to Southern because Grambling, you're still doing too much. You're still doing too much. At some point, can you stop, please? Let the dancers dance without marching and dancing with them. Like, I feel like I'm watching a 3-ring circus sometimes. It's like you're doing too much. It almost makes me, it feel like a band that has, what do they call it, ADD, ADHD?
Right.
I feel like they're the band with ADHD. I'm like, oh my gosh, will you keep still? It's like, I feel like I'm dealing with my 5-year-old in some moments because they're bouncing and jumping and skipping all over the place. It is okay to stop and let the dancers have their moment. But it's so funny. I know Mr. Melvin Miles, the director of Morgan State University, he used to always tell our band, the camera will always find the people who are, 1, not playing, or 2, doing the wrong darn thing. And it's so funny. Every single time the Bayou Classic, you're going to find it. The camera knows how to find the person who forgot their mouthpiece, who's lagging behind the line. It always tickles me because I actually kind of look for it now, but every single time. And so you saw some of those little moments where you just kind of had to chuckle like, hey, that dude's not playing, or that dude's kind of behind the line, but the camera just kind of finds those people.
I was wondering myself about Grambling. I know over the years when I've done the show, I say the same thing about Grambling. I have to say this year and last year, their sound is more complete. It's more full. They have the whole swag mentality with them. So I feel like that they're competitive with Southern, but the only thing is that they have too much tradition. The world renowned. I understand.
Right.
You bring up a really, really good point just about dancing while the dancers are performing. That to
Yeah.
me takes away from the dance routine
It does.
because it's making me look at two different things.
Exactly.
I'm like, wow, okay, I'm looking here, I'm looking here, I'm looking here. I don't like the fact that they dance so much. I give it to them. It's like they having a party. You know what I mean? Another thing that I don't like is in the formation that they stay in. They're always like in that drill concert band looking formation thing.
Right, right.
And they stay in that and they dance. I'm like, I don't like how that looks because it looks a little bit more like they're ants. Like, because like you got a line of folks and then like a star of folks or a half circle of folks and they're all dancing, but you can't keep that same line precision when you have a straight line here and a slash line here. So it
Yeah.
just looks different when they're dancing. And I know they've been doing this for probably 400 years.
Yeah, but it almost reminds me of, okay, I know every kid grew up seeing the Ringling Brothers Circus. They were the three ring circus.
Right.
And so remember at one point, you're like looking, you don't know where to look because everything is three rings and you're kind of missing stuff because everything is going on. But notice when the Universal Circus came about, they didn't do the three, did one center focused act. Now Ringling Brother has changed their style to match that. They don't do the three ring circus anymore. They do one act at a time. And I was like, ooh, thank you. Even though I still don't like Ringling Brother, but they kind of got the idea. I think the same thing has kind of happened with Grambling. Grambling has to grow now into something different. They're losing their audience because people are like, oh my goodness, what are they doing? It's too much going on.
Right.
That was the shortest dancer number I've seen, number one. And then I couldn't really understand what the dancers were doing because the band was behind them dancing. It was just too much. It was too much going on. I never know where the transitions truly is for that band. I don't know where the transitions are because like the dancers stopped their dance and then I don't know if they went right into dance routine or if that was supposed to be a drill number. There wasn't clarity.
Southern on the field, as far as tradition goes, never been a fan of the drum major salute because like I don't know like what's going on, like if he's sick or if he's got something in his uniform he's trying to get out. But he does that. I do like the back bend though. I do like when he goes back into the back bend. Then Southern executed what I'm used to seeing and what I like to prefer. Tight precision, nice execution, nice transition between formations, going into those company fronts. And then I was just thinking, like when they came on the field, the drill that they did against Jackson State this year was, they call it the Star Drill. And I said, man, I really, really love that drill. If Southern does that, that's going to be hard to beat. And I said this while they were coming on the field, and lo and behold, they went right into that Star Drill.
Right.
And man, hopefully, and I may talk to some Grambling folks, that's just hard to beat. That drill is hard and it's executed really well. And I think University of Tennessee or some other school has done it before. But Southern actually put it really, really well together, and it's just executed. I just really, really appeasing to the eye. And then they executed it well. The drill, I gave the drill to Southern. I thought their drill was better. And then they had their dancer features. Both bands had their dancer features, and we talked about how Grambling just didn't stop. They partied the whole time. The only thing both of them did, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but I think FAM did the mannequin challenge last week.
Yeah, everybody's doing the mannequin challenge.
They got it right. Alcorn did it last week, and then both bands here did it for the halftime show. So I thought that was cool. The only thing about Southern show was that it was mad short. They did their show, they executed, but I guess their dance routine was short.
Okay.
I wanted more because I guess I was used to seeing Grambling. Grambling danced for a long time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see more from Southern. But I could tell Grambling had great energy, but that drill was just hard to beat. And I felt Southern, I liked their announcer better. I thought the announcer was a little bit more chill. And he wasn't he was much more laid back, was cool.
Grambling, usually they have a female announcer. So they had a different announcer this time that I don't know how long this gentleman has been announcing for them, but Yeah, their announcer is usually very loud, energetic, and kind of almost talks over the band sometimes.
Right.
And yet the announcer does make a difference. They can enhance your show, or they can kind of lose you because they're doing a little bit too much. I agree with that point.
Double Time Entertainment. Our passion is music and promoting HBCU marching bands as well as high school marching bands through high quality movie videos and photos. We have worked with BET, Yamaha, Ludwig, Honda Motor Company, and been featured on CNN and Lifetime Network's series Bama State Style. We also help and orchestrate Battle of the Bands with marketing and promotions, and also became the official media team for the Queen City Battle of the Bands in Charlotte, North Carolina. Join Double Time Entertainment on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and now new on Periscope. Music lovers are noteworthy.
Hello, this is Christine Neo-Katzman, CEO and publisher of Halftime Magazine, and you are listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
What did you think about the Battle of the Bands?
Well, 2 or 3 shows ago when we taped, I talked about the block chords and the
Yes.
loud trumpets and the tubas and the yeah. Okay, so that stands. That point stands. It's mute. It is what it is. That's kind of what Southern does. I appreciate the fact that I could hear woodwinds. I could hear the color come through for Grambling. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. What's the point of having woodwinds? I'm going to say it again. What's the point of having them if you can't hear them?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did notice is the trumpets, especially the higher trumpets, the screaming trumpets, they struggled for both bands, Grambling and Southern. In the Battle of the Bands, both, and I don't know, it's just because you could hear it better because they was inside that dome, but boy, there were some moments I was like, ooh, for both bands. Yeah, the trumpets they struggled quite a bit. It seemed like they were just playing back songs at one point. Like one band would play the song, the other band would play it right back. To me, that's it is what it is with that. Still struggling with that whole musicality thing. I'm not going to spend a whole nother show on that, but we're still missing the musicality, the phrasing and the timbre that kind of comes along with it when we do that block chord loud playing. But I appreciate Grambling's attempt at bringing about some more musicality. I can't call the Battle of the Bands. I'm not even going to try to do it. I feel like that's one of the moments you need to be in there because that dome is just hard to kind of hear.
Grambling, I felt match like much more of the loudness, much more of the power. So I had to give them, I say, okay, fine, way to go, Grambling. The only thing is that their energy, they didn't keep the same energy. And maybe they were saving it for the halftime show, but that whole party, that GS, you know how they get crunk. They didn't keep that for the entire Battle of the Bands to me. I felt that, like, especially like in the beginning, they were playing a couple songs, like the very first song. It's like they had them playing like 2 or 3 songs or like a medley or something like that to start.
Okay.
And I noticed like Grambling went first, like a guy said like a little poem or like a little rap to start, and then Grambling played like 3 songs, or they played like a little medley or something, and then Southern came back with like a little medley. But it just felt like Grambling, they got kind of dead on the break.
Right,
on the tuba breaks, and they just kind of like left a hole kind of for some momentum. But then Southern did something that I really, really hate. When someone sings in front of the band, Bridget, I hate that.
Hate it.
I hate that. And Southern, I was just like, oh my God, like the guy, and then like he built it up first, like, oh yeah, with all the natural disasters and what's going on in the country, they're gonna do a gospel song. And I was telling Rashad, I don't like pulling at my heart for house, like right. I don't like going. You talking about Jesus or going?
It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick.
Like something that we all agree on. Because everybody gonna clap. Like, nobody ain't gonna clap for Jesus, man.
Right.
And then the woman came out there, and then she was all, hollering on top of the band. I was just like, oh, man. I'm like, no, Southern, not you. I expected that from Grambling, but not Southern. And
But
maybe it's a
Southern will pull a gimmick too quickly though.
I
They're good.
know.
They're good for gimmicks.
I know, but it's her. What do you think about people singing with the band?
I do. I think it depends on the moment and when. At a battle of the bands, I don't know if it's quite appropriate. I'm not a big fan of people singing with the band. I think it depends on, if you're doing a show or tribute, okay, of course, if you're doing something like the Star Spangled Banner, those kind of things, I think it's fine. But in order to get house or, I think it's a gimmick in a moment like that. At a battle of the bands, I think it's like you said, a gimmick to get house, and not a big fan of it.
I don't know. I really honestly do not know who won that this year because
Yeah, that's how I feel.
it's so easy to just be like Southern just because of who they are and their sound and stuff. But Gremlin held their own. They played. It's just their energy surprised me. I guess they were tired. I'm sure they were having a good time or whatever, but it's hard to keep that energy going. But I was missing some of that energy, and then Southern had the lady out there singing. Man, that just hurt, man.
Yeah.
It just really did. But yeah, so I really can't call the Battle of the Bands myself, but it looked like it was a good weekend. And
Yeah, and it's
really
a long
exciting.
weekend. They have a lot of things kind of lined up. Did you see any of the? I saw some of the parade. So they do a parade. They have the
Yep.
Battle of the Bands. They have so many things happening. So they have to be tired. I know they're probably really tired once they get back to their respective cities after Saturday because they have so much that they have to do.
Right. And like you said, I think there's a step show
Wow.
and
Yeah, and that
some other
happens right
stuff.
before the Battle of the Band
Right,
starts.
right. So yeah, definitely a lot of things going on. And then of course I'm sure that they all try to get home for their families or have some type of holiday, going on. But that was the first year I think I just noticed Gremlin's energy
Yeah.
not being the same. So
Yeah, that's because they done danced the whole halftime show. They done practiced that dancing the whole time. I wouldn't have any energy either. All that dancing they doing. I'm sorry. That's petty. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I guess the last question I will ask you, was there any like wow moments or anything that jumped out at you after all from what you seen, something that surprised you from the Bayou?
Okay, there's several things. Let me work through my list. Here's the first one. So I attended the Bayou Classic maybe a year or two after Hurricane Katrina, and it was kind of on the low. It's so great to see that it's back on the up. It looks like participation was really, really good. It looked like the house was packed from watching the game and looking at the parade. It looks like the energy's back up in the city. That's exciting. That's really exciting because I think some of the funding that was lost and why they pulled it from main network TV is it's all about money. It's all about funding.
Right.
So it's great to kind of see it on the return. So that's my yay. I'm so happy to kind of see that. Some other shockers for me. I don't know if you paid this any attention, but the third and fourth quarter, I have to kind of fuss for just a second. The bands did the whole section. They did the sectional challenges for the entire third and fourth quarter. Come on, guys. Come on, HBCU bands. We got to do better than this. We got to do better. The entire third and fourth quarter, I was sitting there like, really? If I hear another trumpet, horn, trombone, tuba, fanfare, several years ago, and I'm not saying we are the model or example for this, but several years ago, Morgan's band director got tired of it. He's like, look, we're not sectional battling. We're not doing it anymore because it kind of, the entire stadium is looking at you like, what? What's going on? That's a band thing. And your crowd doesn't really get that. We're supposed to be here for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, if, maybe trade a section song or two. But when I say the entire third or fourth quarter, I was like literally in shock. I'm sitting there listening to it like, are they really going to sectional punch for the entire two quarters? But now I think bands are also doing that to save their book for the fifth quarter.
I was just thinking that, and maybe they did something from the Battle of the Bands where they didn't want to like repeat some of those songs.
Yep, that's cheating. Just to put it out there, your bands are cheating. Yeah, I'll say it. Nobody else will say it. You're cheating. If you're doing sectional, you're letting your sections challenge for two quarters in order to save your book. That's cheating. That really is. It's not fair to your crowd. Because crowds don't get that. Band people, band heads, we get that. It's supposed to be the cheerleaders for the game. The bands kind of get the crowd pumped about the game.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care nothing about the sectional challenges. They really don't. Because they're not band heads. So that's cheating.
I think some years back we had Battle of the Bands with Alcorn in this field, and we would play like a couple songs, and then they would let the drum sections play it. Let you decide what to do. So that was something else, but definitely during the game, saving a book, that may be something we have to do. You saving your book. Because that also made me think you are then spending sectional time practicing. Because you have so much time practicing for the band, but how much time are you practicing to get your riffs together? That's what you used to call them back at Smith, was the riffs. Looking on the fifth quarter, it said official attendance was 67,845. So yeah,
that's wonderful.
Like, it looks like it's going back up as the granddaddy of the classics, as they call it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's really exciting to hear.
Hi, everyone. This is Joe Beard, the Phantom Podcaster and owner and founder of the Marching Podcast. I want to tell you guys about this website, theedge1pro.com. That's DAEDGE1pro.com. This is the website of my man Garrett Edgerson, the media director for Southern University's Human Jukebox. If you want to see great bands and a good idea of the HBCU experience, log into theedge1pro.com. Garrett has photos and videos of events on campus, along with parades of bands of all levels. So check out the Edge One Productions and theedge1pro.com.
Hello, this is Dr. Joel Beard, Jackson State alumnus, 1966. I march in the Jackson State Marching Band, which was then called the best band in the land. And you are now listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
So anything else about the Bayou?
I'm still going. I got one more thing.
Okay.
All right, Southern University. Let's talk about this. As we were talking about female leadership and some other things, I am still surprised at the number of females Southern have, or the lack thereof of females that they have in their band. I actually decided to do a count. I watched them march into a game. Less than 10% of their band is female still. That's a problem. To me, that's still an issue. I can tell you from looking at it, the females that they had, I counted maybe it's between 35 and 40 females in the band. All of them except for 2 were in the woodwind section, so they played flute, clarinet, or dancer. And I think I saw 2 horn players that were female. That's it. I'm still not understanding how Southern's able to do that, and why is it still a problem for females to be an intricate part of this program. That still bothers me.
It looks like it's still maybe the same question. We kind of started the podcast off just about female leadership and just females. I know when that was one thing about Southern, I was like, that turned me off. And not because I was pro women, but I always thought that like girls in the band were like kind of the point. So like you go on trips and stuff like you.
Right.
So with that tripped me out. But yes, I then, once we got down there, and then knowing various people that went to Southern and befriending a lot of the folk, they did not like that. And of course, there's probably as much tradition as Grambling, like dancing around everywhere. But Southern, that talk about women in the band, they had a term, and I have to like be careful about this, but they didn't want certain things under the S. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, they didn't want anything other than a dude under the S. I was like, wow, that's
a discriminatory practice.
Yes.
And the attention has to come to that. I'm sorry to call them on that, but somebody has to call them on that. That's a discriminatory practice. Why are we still allowing that to happen? To me, that's a problem. They're the only band that's still able to withhold that tradition. And that is, it's not fair. It's not right. I know one of my top picks for colleges when I didn't know any better was Grambling. And I'm a tuba player. I'm a female tuba player. So this particular year, 1994, I'll never forget, Grambling played Morgan State. So the director of bands decided to come do auditions at schools. And so he came to me, audition. And let me tell you, I'm not just saying this. I was a doggone good tuba player. Auditioned for him. He was like, yeah, you're a good tuba player, but I don't let females in my tuba section. Can I tell you, I'll never forget that comment. I'll never forget it.
Like he said it out loud?
He said it to me. I don't let females in my tuba section. How about you consider, don't you have another instrument you play? I said, well, I started on clarinet. How about playing clarinet? Absolutely not. I am a tuba player. Well, what about even thinking about baritone? I will not play it. I won't come to your band. But that was a total turn off for me. I did not go to Grambling State because of that incident.
Wow.
There's no amount of scholarship money I was willing to accept if you have that mentality. But that old school good old boy mentality when it comes to band, to me, I'm still shocked when I see a band march in and I see all males, nice bald heads, and then at the end of the band I see females that are playing flute and clarinet and dancers, and that's it. There are no others. That's a discriminatory practice. Yes, I will call it. It is what it is.
And it's just, and we've talked about it, it's very similar to being black. You know
Yep.
what I mean? You got CEOs, you got the NFL owners, you got these referees, and it's very, very similar. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't even thought about it. I mean, I didn't think about it because I haven't looked at their band and I haven't seen them up front. But yeah, I didn't know that was still going on. I know that they have some, and they used to have just zero. But yes, that's actually something to think about.
As one thing I'm proud about as a member of Tau Beta Sigma is they're really promoting a women in music series and talking about women leadership in music. And I think that's one thing we have to still consider it. And when I was working on my master's, that's one thing, that was my thesis topic, talking about the female band directors that are leading HBCU bands, which at the time there were hardly any. There were like two or three. And that was, 2005. And honestly, we're in 2016, and there's still less than five, I think, that are leading band directors that are leading HBCU bands. And think about the number of graduates, music degree graduates that we have. But the mentality, there's still a mentality that females are good for middle school bands, sometimes high school bands, but there's still a disparity in female leadership, which is, to me, still is a problem. I'm glad to see when I see a female as a drum major, I get excited for those programs because it shows progress, it shows an upward mentality, and it shows the women in the band that you can assume a leadership role in this program. It speaks volumes when there's a female section leaders, female drum majors. I get really excited when you look at the band staff and you see females who are in director positions. I ain't talking about over the dance line and over the color guard, no. I'm talking about female band directors, which band directors and assistant band directors. That's super exciting to me. And, as a female band director myself, because there aren't many that are out there, and that's still an area that we have to make progress in. There needs to be opportunities for those women to work into their profession. The other band that's not far behind them that has that same mentality is Talladega. Is it
Really?
Talladega? They're kind of the same way, but they come from the Southern school of thought. So it's kind of the same thing. And to me, it's no different. We can't be discriminatory of ourselves when you talk about like it's a black and white thing. You're absolutely right. It's the same thing when I look at dance lines and I see girls who fit the paper bag mentality, much like Southern's dance line. There are not many beautiful dark skinned women. What are we saying? What message are we sending when we make them all
Oh.
wear them light skin tights? Or when you have maybe one that's a little darker than the other, but the rest are still the same complexion or even lighter. What message are we sending to our dark skinned females? We have to be careful the message that we're sending as HBCUs is my whole point.
I mean, that's a really good point. But that is a trip. You say the paper bag mentality. I have not really thought about that and seeing that actually it's still actually happening, and it's quote unquote the tradition. Tamisha Brock, I think we brought her up before. She is on the staff there at Mississippi Valley, but I'm trying to think: are there any other ones than her out there?
Virginia Union has a female band director, and wow, she's doing a great job with them also. And then it's one of the schools in North Carolina.
Well, I know
They also,
Tamisha Brock came from Elizabeth City, so she
okay,
was there, and then she moved to Valley.
Norfolk State has a female assistant, Stephanie Saunders, who does a great job with them. So there are a few assistants out there, not many that are actually leading. Chicago State University has someone that's over their jazz program who does a great job with them, a female director. But there aren't many. Like I said, maybe five. Oh, North Carolina A&T does have a female on their staff this year.
Okay.
So we're starting to see some, but North Carolina A&T has been one of those upward moving programs. I think they were one of the first that I saw that had a female drum major, and I really appreciate seeing female leadership across the band programs. I was amazed when I was working with Mr. Melvin Miles at Morgan State, how many people thought I was either his daughter or just his secretary when I was there. And I'm just sitting there like,
Wow.
wow. Yeah, because it was automatically assumed you see a female, or she's over the dance line, or she's over the color guard. It's like,
Right.
no, actually. In closing, I was excited to see this year. This year has really gone past really quickly. A lot of bands are closing out their year with finales. I know Hampton University does a closing finale. I think theirs this Friday, the 2nd. They
Okay.
do a kind of like a marching band kind of presentation. Morgan State will do theirs 4 o'clock on Saturday. It's called the Marching Band Show. Fantastic stage show. If you think of a show similar to Stomp, or if you saw a Drumline show that kind of was produced, it's kind of that. I mean, lights, camera,
Oh,
action, the
nice.
whole shebang. It's really a nice end of the year, end of the season production family shows. Shout out to the schools who are actually having those. Keep everyone posted so people can go and support those band programs.
All right, everyone. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or a patron to the Marching Podcast, please contact the show and we'll give you the criteria so we can start to pub your business using our platform. We'll play your commercial, we'll post your website on our blog, and we'll help send out information through social media. So contact us so we can help build your business.
Hello, this is Dr. Carl Dares from Vanderbilt University, a proud Bulldog from Alabama A&M, and you are listening to the Marching Podcast Radio Network.
Hello, this is Christine Mayo Katzman, CEO and publisher of Halftime Magazine, and you are listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Dr. Joel Beard, Jackson State alumnus, 1966. I march in the Jackson State Marching Band, which was then called the best band in the land. And you are now listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
We've come to the end of our podcast. Check out the website and donate what's in your heart to themarchingpodcast.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and remember, the lectures you deliver may be very fine and true, but I'd rather get my lesson by observing what you do. See you next time.